Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us today for this information webinar for LSE's Executive Masters in International Strategy and Diplomacy. I'm Sania Kulkarni. I'm the program manager, and I'm joined today by our program team. And our aim today is to give you an introduction to the course, its structure, some learning objectives, and we'll be doing so by going through each of the agenda items outlined on your screen now. We're also joined by two of our students who are currently enrolled in the program. They've decided to kindly join us and share their experiences from their year at LSE so far. Please note that this session will be recorded and made available on the LSE Ideas YouTube channel for future reference. So you can always go back and have a look at the slides and if there's anything that you missed. So I'll hand over now to Professor Chris Alden, who is our program director. He's also the director of LSE Ideas and a professor of international relations at the LSE. So over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Sonia. Thanks very much. Welcome, everyone. This is a great opportunity for us to tell you a bit about our program and for you to ask questions of us. So I hope you take full advantage of that. The LSE Ideas and the LSE more generally have been supporting this program for over 17 years. It's a program, and it's an executive master's program. It's the only one that focuses on international strategy and diplomacy. It's unique in how it presents that. It's a balance of academics and practitioners. There's case study engagement here. It's the full package. It's everything we think that you need to know about the world that is in such transition, turmoil, if some would say, and it both reflects, we try to reflect and give you the skill set to understand the context, the academic and scholarly musings on it, the policy perspectives of people who are in policy, in different aspects of policy and the like. And we benefit, as you'll hear a little bit later, from some extraordinary students. And the students are the ones who help make this this package that is our LSE Executive Masters in International Strategy and Diplomacy so different than everything else that's out there. The other thing I wanted to emphasize with this is it's a real degree. It's not just a sort of passing through through a few lectures or what have you. You get a serious LSE recognized degree. It's challenging in all the best ways. So I'm encourage you to think about this program. It's been running for 17 years and to use the proverbial strength to strength thing, but it really does go from strength to strength. Let me stop there. I think some of the details of it are better said by some of my colleagues here. If I can turn it back to Sonia and she can introduce my next colleague.
Thank you, Chris. We'll now be hearing from Hugh Sandeman, who is our head of practitioners on the program. So over to you, Hugh.
Thank you, and thanks again to all of you for joining us today. The practitioner side of the program is kind of half of the whole package, really. We bring in about 50 to 60 speakers every year. These are politicians, diplomats, defense officials, former military officers, intelligence operatives, and they talk to us over the 8 months of teaching from September to April. We've got 4 different segments in the practitioner side of the program. And for each of these, all of our students are in the room together. The 4 segments are: first, we start in September with a week on strategy, looking at the practice of strategy by states and people and how theories of strategy interlink with how you actually do it. Then in January, we spend a week on the practice of diplomacy and foreign policy, which includes a lot of work on conflict resolution and diplomatic negotiation. Our third practitioner-led program takes place in February, when we meet off campus for a simulated diplomatic summit, a negotiation exercise. And then we wrap it up with a week in April when we focus on strategy, diplomacy, and decision-making in crisis situations. And just to give you a flavor of this, I'll run through the third component of the practitioner program, which is the Offsite Summit. This year we held it at a conference center outside London. And along with all of our students, we brought together a team of current and former government officials to simulate a summit meeting between the US, Russia, and Ukraine to explore the potential for ending the war in Ukraine. And this was unfolding at exactly the moment when the Trump administration was moving towards the peak of its efforts to try to resolve the conflict. So what we did, we assigned each student to a national team, Russian, Ukrainian, US. And in the first stage of the exercise, students analyzed and then pitched to their president a particular policy for either trying to end or continuing with the war. Then based on this input, the three practitioners who were acting as the presidents of US, Ukraine, and Russia had a conference together, which the students listened to. And the next day, students had to negotiate with their counterparties from other country teams to try to reach at least a minimal wording on a joint communique about the summit. A very, very tough assignment with very distinguished people both leading the summit negotiation, and also each small team of students was assigned a very experienced practitioner, diplomat, other kind of official, former official, to help them in the exercise. And the students were given very tough instructions, and it turned out to be an extremely difficult negotiation challenge. So that's just a flavor of one particular segment of the practitioner program. Now, every one of the practitioner speakers we bring in is asked to address really particular issues that relate directly to the learning objectives of what they're teaching and the objectives of the whole course. And that's to say, really, that all our speakers are interesting people. They all have fascinating stories to tell, but we insist that they focus on telling our students about the specific issues that they're briefed to deliver. And overall, what they convey is the essential fieldcraft of moving around effectively in a very fast-changing, highly politicized world. These 50 to 60 speakers came this year from all over the world. We heard from the US, China, India, Japan, Turkey, Australia, and from smaller states, including Finland and Estonia. And the practitioner program, like the academic side, is really about interaction. Every talk is split roughly evenly between a lecture and open discussion. And given the enormous experience and commitment of our students, these discussion periods are always lively. In this whole last year, there wasn't a single moment of silence following a speaker's delivery. Students jumped in and challenged, in one or two cases, rather tore apart the speaker. It's highly interactive. And as the year progresses, there's a kind of cumulative debate going on among all of us, students, faculty, speakers, in the room during lectures or in the pub afterwards, as we collectively think through the issues we're addressing. So if you join this program, you will be joining and helping to create a remarkable conversation, a conversation about becoming more effective in a changing world. And we really hope that you sign up to it. Sonia.
Thanks, Hugh. I'd also want to just point out very quickly that there is a Q&A session at the end, so we have time for questions. If you have any that pop up during the course of the webinar, please put them in the Q&A box that we have here. I want to now hand over to Dr. Aaron McKeel, who is the academic director of the program and also the course convener. So over to you, Aaron.
Thanks, Sonia. And thank you, Chris and Hugh as well. I think these points made so far are really, really helpful. Like Professor Alden mentioned right away, this is a genuine master's degree. It's genuine MSc credential, right? But it's delivered for working professionals, right? So that has a lot of added value for very busy, high-achieving professionals with busy schedules, right? So we tailor it to what they're interested in learning and the time they have to do it, right? So alongside the very high level practitioners that Hugh Sanabin here brings to the program, we also bring world-leading academics and experts on strategic and diplomatic issues who spent decades and careers studying these specific issues in immense detail with serious amounts of academic outputs and expertise on these topics. So we bring in the power of the LSE IR department as well as neighboring universities to talk about these major issues that we study across the course. And I should say that this combination of practitioners and academics at this very high level, I think, makes it one of the best programs of its kind at a leading institution in the United Kingdom, in the world, really. It really is. I've been on this program for a while and I've compared it to other programs. It really is one of the most best of its kind out there. I'll say more about it. So we have this program journey. So it's a very structured and organized calendar, and structured and organized curriculum. So with the pre-program, you'll see in the beginning there, we have some pre-program readings, a package for enrolled students to catch up on strategic and diplomatic studies if they've been away from studies for a while or they want to get ahead. And then we start with strategy, as Hugh said, right? We start there, strategic thinking and the return of great power politics, right? We start with the practitioners and we move over to the academics and we look at the grand strategy of the great powers, the United States, Russia, China, and so forth, leading up to the first policy weekend on China and China's grand strategy. We do a module on economic statecraft and the changing economic order, which is very important for the global state of affairs. I think you can notice. And we move to the global south and middle powers and their foreign policies and their strategies. In the winter term, we do diplomacy, negotiation. We think about it as applied foreign policy, right? So statecraft and foreign policy, diplomacy being a tool of that. So you understand how states craft their foreign policy whilst we work on negotiation skills as your practical vocational output there. And towards the summer term, then you're starting to craft your own research project, specializing what expertise you want to have come out of this your specialist research expertise on this program. So we do have a British and LSE philosophy of education here. It's very student-led learning environment. So your dissertation project is very much your own. You craft your own dissertation topic with guidance from the faculty on how to design that research. And you go out and investigate over the summer, leading up to your graduation in the winter, the following fall. Should we proceed to the assessment? So I think this is something that is important to clarify what you're getting into in terms of your assessments. They're an important part of the time you will have on this program completing these assignments. And there's an essay, policy paper, and the dissertation I mentioned, right? The essay works on your analytical arguments, analytical reasoning. So it's an analytical essay assignment on a strategic topic. And then your policy paper is more prescriptive. It's evaluating different policy options, making a prescriptive argument for one policy or the other. You're recommending policy. And like I said, the dissertation assignment is a genuine MC dissertation that you craft your own research design and question around. There's a formative and assumative distinction you'll see there. The formative gives you a chance to practice, to give an attempt at what this assignment is about. It clarifies your expectations, and it doesn't go in your transcript. The summative assignment comes second after you've had feedback and it's a new topic, and you get a proper attempt at this assignment that goes on your transcript at the end. I think that's that for now. If there's questions on assessment, happy to answer it. Why this program? Right. So I think some of these points have been raised before. There's an extraordinary amount of content on this program. You get 3 times the amount of lecturers and taught class time compared to the normal non-executive MSc. We rather over-deliver on this program. And we bring really, really high-level practitioners and academics professors, admirals, generals, foreign ministers, right, ambassadors. That's the kind of level that we aim to deliver, because we have very high achieving students, and we're aiming to help them move up to operate at that level. That's why we bring in the high level practitioners, and there's a huge number from a wide range. I think there's something to be said about the student body as well. The students you'll be amongst are fantastic across multiple sectors, and they do rather teach each other things, and there's extraordinary conversations every week from multiple professional, high-achieving sectors talking about important issues of the day. And we do try to keep the curriculum very current. So as you mentioned, we're talking about contemporary war and peace. We're talking about contemporary trends in economic order. We're keeping this content as relevant as possible. Digital transformations of our societies and our foreign policies as well. It's a very busy, very, very engaging curriculum. I think that's it for now for me. I'm happy to answer more questions.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah.
We'll now be hearing from our students. So I'll hand over to Raisa first.
Thank you, Sanya. So hi, everyone. My name is Raisa. I'm a current student in the program. I'm Lebanese, and I joined this program in September. A quick intro, a few words about myself. I'm happy to talk a bit more about the motivations, so why I joined this program in the first place. And finally, happy to talk more about our student body and how most of us managed full-time work with what is kind of a full-time program. First, my background is in tech. I've been working at Google for about 8 years now. Before that, I worked for about 5 years in banking and startups, primarily in the Middle East. When I moved to work with Google, I first joined their offices in Dublin, where I lived for about 5 years. Moved for a short period of time in Paris, and finally in London for the past 3 years. Most of my career has been in business, so I'm not an engineer in engineering. So I've worked across different markets, including Middle East, France, and the UK. And my primary motivation for joining this program, was that I really wanted to take a step back and try to better understand the different dynamics that were shaping our world and how they were impacting and shaping our economic futures. So I was always interested in growing my career in international business, but I understood that understanding the geopolitical dynamics and all the different factors that shape our world today is essential in order to grow in that direction. So from my perspective, I saw this program as a great opportunity to incorporate a lot of learnings in my current job as a short-term play. So negotiation skills, communicating with different people from different backgrounds, understanding what the different dynamics are in different regions, mediation, etc., but also as a long-term play, potentially exploring a career shift into other areas like global affairs, for example, or go-to-market. So I think this program really prepares you for both a career in private and public sectors. And I think, we live in a very chaotic and fast-paced world. What this program, I think, has also given us is the space and time to really go in depth in some questions that we find important, or questions that we'd like to answer. And it gives you that space because you're surrounded by people who come from very different backgrounds, and I'll be talking a bit more about that, but also lecturers who are strong subject matter experts in different areas. And as Professor Hugh mentioned, we also go to the pub and have different focus groups, etc. So that really gives you the space to think through certain issues. And in my case, for example, it's a great opportunity to do so because most of what we do is like focused on slides and articulated via slides and focused on very specific business issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So in this program, you have the opportunity to really go in depth in the topics that are important for you. The second point that I wanted to mention was that our student group is extremely diverse. So I think this year we're about 31 or 32. I'd say we're practically half-half between public and private sectors. So just to touch a bit on that, I think we've got a few ex-military.
Wi-Fi network.
Sorry, that's my Google device. We've got a few people who are ex-military. We've got a few. I think I'm the only one in tech, but we've got a few people in global health, in the supply chain industries. We've also got a few diplomats from different countries, including China, the US, the UK, and Canada. And I think, because we come from different backgrounds and we've had very different lives, it creates a really interesting dynamic discussion every Wednesday evening and during our intensive weeks. I think it's also a safe space for us to be sharing different opinions. And because we're confronting different issues from different perspectives, we often disagree, and that's okay. And I think it's the process that helps us grow and really help us forge opinions based on facts, but also based on incorporating our peers' different perspectives. I'm just going to maybe talk quickly about balancing academic work and full-time jobs, which I think is practically most of our classes' challenge. I think it's important to acknowledge that quite a few also have a kid, one, two, or three kids at home. So it can be a challenge, but I think first the program is designed to help you manage that. So most of our classes or seminars are on Wednesday evenings from 6 to 8 p.m. in London, and which are also convenient hours for anyone based in the US or the rest of the world. The second point is that everyone shows up during the intensive weeks, and we have 4 of those throughout the year, and there's quite a bit of time between each one of them. And finally, the rest is kind of done through weekends. And I think it's the most helpful part of this program is the support group that you have around you. So that's your peers, that's our amazing program managers who are on the call today, Sanya and Hong Li, and our professors who are also here on the call. So whenever I had to work on an essay or a policy paper, I've always sought the advice and the point of view and the perspective of everyone around me. There are also office hours that can help you really unlock certain stages where you might be stuck. And I think it's really been enjoyable. It was challenging at a lot of times, but it's also a support group that's very accommodating and that is really designed to help you grow and to help you overcome all of those challenges. I think for me, it's been a really exciting journey, and I'll leave it over to Harold to talk a bit more about his experience, but happy to answer any questions during the Q&A.
Thank you, Raisa, for your very kind words. Shall we move on to Harold now?
Thank you, Sonia. Raisa is always a hard act to follow, and there are few students among our cohort who are more, few if any, who are more enthusiastic than Raisa. Just to build upon some of the comments made earlier, both Professors Alden and Mikhail have referred to the program being real or genuine. Raisa and I both can attest to that as we are between our summative policy paper and dissertation plan right now. It is very real. It is challenging, but always rewarding. So my path to the program is a bit different. All of us, 32 or 34 in the cohort, have our unique paths that got us to LSE and the Master of Science degree in strategy and diplomacy. In college, I was an international relations major at Columbia University through the political science department. Had a pronounced pause from my undergraduate degree until pursuing my first executive master's program 16 years after graduating from college. That was a 2-year program in industrial and labor relations at Cornell University, which in some ways prepared me for my second and somewhat unexpected master's degree at LSE. There are definite benefits to studying in a global capital. And the time in London, either for residential or overseas students, is always rewarding. To have the access of the academicians and practitioners who either live or pass through London, to have that ready access is an enormous asset to the program. For those who are residential students, there are the ancillary activities at LSE and other London universities, constant lectures, officials, interesting people on or near the campus to which LSE students have access. The social elements, Professor Sandeman referred to the pub hours on Wednesdays after class or every day during the intensive weeks or policy weekends. Whether a student imbibes or not, just to be able to continue the discussions and debates, always respectively, sometimes intense. We are far from a passive bunch, but the dialogue is always respectful. As Raisa said, the class very much looks like the world. I think we often behave better than the world at large in our interactions, which really makes the experience all the more edifying. My decision, having serendipitously found the program, my decision to apply and then enroll after acceptance was based upon what is next for me as a professional, advising large entities in frontier markets on how to raise capital, in a voluntary capacity, as honorary consul of Cote d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, in my native Louisiana, and as an international citizen. Where do I want to be in this next and, yes, last phase of my professional career? And this interaction with a broad scope of students, academicians, practitioners is the right fit. We span every continent except Australia and Antarctica in the current cohort. The age range is from 25 to about 60, as I understand it. I'm not the one at 60 quite yet. But we epitomize really the best in terms of looking at the world broadly. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you, Harold. So I will be now taking you through the logistics of the course, some key details on your application, as well as your journey from applying to starting at LSE. So for the past few years, we've adopted a hybrid mode of delivery, which has been touched upon already. This is in the spirit of increasing access to professionals around the world, but also to better help our students manage their studies with their full-time jobs. So essentially, we have two modes of participation: the residential, where students are based in London for the entirety of the year, and the non-residential, where students participate in term time teaching remotely, but attend the 4 intensive weeks and 2 policy weekends in person in London. Now, if you're an international student, you can still apply to be on the residential course. LSE does sponsor student visas, and all details about your visa application, etc., will be communicated to you in due course once you have received your offer. Now, as for key details about the application itself, please note that our application deadline for this year is the 22nd of August. We are accepting applications until that day. So if you have an in-progress application or you're planning to submit it anytime soon, we would encourage you to do so at the earliest. The application form is available on our website, along with detailed information on requirements and any other resources that you may need to complete it. So here is your entire year at a glance. Now, this is the program calendar for 2025-26. And the key dates to note here are the 4 intensive weeks that are highlighted in blue, as well as the 2 policy weekends, the one in October and one in February. This is when the residential and non-residential students are all together in London. So the intensive weeks are primarily, a full day of classes from 9 to 5 typically. And your day consists of a mix of lectures, seminars, and sometimes simulations and, negotiation activities and so on. The Wednesdays are highlighted in green, and that is your hybrid term time teaching. This is when the non-residential students sort of zoom in to the lecture and then have a separate seminar. So that's a 2-hour session every week. This calendar is also available on our website. So if you'd like to have a look on your own time, please feel free to do so. Moving on, I'd like to highlight a few key details about fees for the program, which are all administered by the central LSE fees department. Once you accept your offer, you will be prompted to pay the deposit, which is 10% of the total fee. And this is held against the first installment that is due in October. Now, your payment plan is primarily determined by whether you're sponsored externally or self-funded. But the standard plan that our students primarily follow is that of 3 installments, one in October, January, and April. A detailed fees pack and guide on, finance-related queries will be provided to you once you have an offer. And besides that, we have a fees department that is available to answer any and all questions that you may have about that. And finally, I'd also like to point out that there is a whole host of resources at LSE to answer any questions that you have and support you throughout not just the application process, but your entire journey with us. And at this stage, the relevant departments are, of course, the admissions office, the fees department, and our visa advice team, all of whom you can contact. And aside from this, we at the department are also very happy to have a chat with you and answer any questions via email. And it's also possible now to book one-on-one meetings with some of our program team. And you can do so via the consultations tab on our website. This is highlighted on your screen here, but if you visit the LSE Ideas website and find the Exec MSc tab, it's fairly easy to locate the consultations tab and book time with us. We're very happy to talk you through the year, the curriculum, practitioners, as well as, technical details about the application that you may want to sort out before submitting it. So I will draw to a close here. Thank you very much for your time. We can move on to the Q&A section. I don't see any questions in the chat yet, but please feel free to send them as and when they come to you. I think we can sort of touch upon some of the frequently asked questions that we get, one of which is, that of the English language requirement. Now, if your first language isn't English, LSE does require you to take a test prior to starting. It is possible to accept your offer and then provide your language scores at a later date. Again, details on this are available on our website, and we're also happy to, chat about your particular case if there's anything that, stands out. Aaron, I was wondering if you wanted to come in on some of the FAQs for you.
Sure. I think something we could talk about more about is the residential versus non-residential mode of participation. In your residential mode is rather traditional, LSE enrollment, right? You're on campus each week, you're on campus during the intensive weeks. The non-residential mode, you're on campus during those intensive weeks and you get to know your peers quite well in their very intensive weeks, the rightly named, and those policy weekends. While on the weekly Wednesday evening sessions, you're tuning in on a Zoom scenario like this with your online non-residential peers, and then you break out into an online seminar group, much like this. It's directed by Dr. Nicholas Kitchen, who's expert at this point. He's been running these online seminars for quite a while. So you do get a lot of student bonding in that non-residential mode, which may be a concern, and you do get the campus time during those intensive weeks. And you do get on-demand office hours, just like any other student. So I think it has worked very well. We've adopted this for several years now, and we're maintaining that mode of participation. I think it's a real asset for working professionals that are overseas. Diplomats, for instance, who simply can't come to London for an entire year, right? I think it's a real asset to the program. So if you are considering it, do consider it seriously. Perhaps the references sometimes comes up as a frequent question. How come sometimes you can't get an academic reference? You've been in practice for a while, that's okay. Professional references are sufficient for your application, 2 of those. What else can I say?
There is a question.
Great.
How long does it take for an offer to be given to an applicant? Now, this really depends on the application itself, because sometimes there are special cases, sometimes there are conditions, but on an average, I'd like to say it's between 3 and 4 weeks. And the reason for that is because your application first goes to the central admissions office. It then gets transferred to the department and the selectors, who then go through every aspect of your application, and a decision is made, which is then communicated back to the admissions office and then to you. So all in all, it shouldn't take more than 4 weeks in our experience. Yeah, that's the timeline. Okay. Aaron, is there something you want to say about the assessments policy?
The assessments policy, so it's a standard MSc degree, right? So we have the standard LSE assessment policy. However, on this program, I'm full-time, Sunny's full-time. We're very accommodating. We have a lot more support on this program compared to the non-executive program. So if you do need extensions and urgent meetings and so forth, we do accommodate this as much as possible. So we are a bit more invested in our executive students than we simply have more time for them. I think that's the difference. So we do make it as flexible and supportive as possible. There's lots and lots of academic support that I provide. Dr. Nicholas Kitchen provides. There's a center called LSE Life, which is a large hub for the school itself in general. Professor Alden provides one-to-one meetings with a lot of students as well. And then Professor Hugh Sunderman also does some career coaching on demand as well. So there's a huge amount of support that this program kind of delivers in addition to the taught content.
So if there's no more questions, I think we can draw this session to a close. Chris, I was wondering if you would like to say something.
Yeah, I would. Thank you, Sonia. What I'd like to emphasize with the program, you've heard a great deal about it in this sort of snapshot way. It's a full spectrum program approach. Okay, it's not just about strategy. It's just not about military. It's not just about business. It's not just what we're trying to do with this is capture the changing political economy, its relationship to states and non-state actors, and how they make decisions about very difficult issues, global issues, regional issues, national issues, the interplay between those. So it's something that will equip what we aim to do, and I believe we achieve, is to equip you with an understanding of a world that's experiencing great power competition, where the pillars of the monetary system are at least being re-examined. The innovation on the battlefield is beginning to affect new ideas about long-term strategy, military roles and strategy. The environment, the climate change debate is not just a debate, it's a reality in terms of reshaping the societies, that the global society and the choices we have at this particular juncture. So I think it's an important course, and one that tries to give you skills around all of those component parts, but woven together into a single year. So let me stop at that and hand it back to you, Sonia, for any closing remarks.
So I want to thank the team here, the students as well, and thank you for everybody that's taken the time out to attend this session. We hope that we were able to answer any questions that you had. And we've encouraged you to apply, and we look forward to seeing your applications soon. We're available via email, as I've mentioned, so please feel free to reach out. And thank you very much. Have a lovely day.